Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Lauren Jewell. Lauren, how you doing today?
I am so happy to be here. How are you?
I am very happy to have you here. This has been a long time coming. I'm glad that we were finally able to make this connection happen. Now, Lauren, before we talk about why you're here, I would like to talk about you a little bit so the people that don't know you can get to know you. Lauren is a podcaster, burlesque performer, and a semi-professional dad joke teller, which you can watch her jokes every day on Instagram by clicking her links that are down in the description right now. She is also from Flint, Michigan. And I just got to say, D up. As all of you know, I'm a big Michigan boy. So she was raised on a healthy diet of Tales from the Crypt, Are You Afraid of the Dark, and Legally Blonde, which explains how she grew up to be such a creepy cutie, and also how you can tell that people didn't take a shower because their perms are still intact. So, trust me, I got sisters. I know all about that Legally Blonde. All right. And your boyfriend's name is? All right.
I thought you meant my best friend.
So yeah, God, I love that fucking movie. I'm not even gonna lie. I totally adore that movie. So you can also catch her scurrying into hearts with her photography, a roaming roach, and occasionally as Veronica Lockhart, the Countess of Cockroaches. So let's start off at the top here. Podcaster, burlesque performer. What got you involved in doing all that?
So I don't like free time, but also not to go back or anything, but can you just follow me around occasionally and read my bio? Because you made it sound way cooler. I like it.
Well, we're not too far away from each other, so we may be able to make this happen.
That's true. Good point. But I don't like free time. If I'm not consistently working on some sort of project, then I just feel really anxious. What am I doing with my life? Yeah. But now I've also been diagnosed with anxiety and I have medication for this.
Mm-hmm. I get it. I take a rainbow assortment of pills every morning because of all the things we talk about with horror and life and everything. There's nothing more important, and on a serious note, than taking care of yourself. So if you're out there and you feel like you're a coward for going to get medication, you're a coward if you don't. You need to take care of yourself. You need to make sure that you are taken care of, because if you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to be hard for someone else to take care of you. So never feel ashamed to know that it's not a weakness. It's a mental health issue. You wouldn't be upset with you wouldn't be upset with yourself if you had cancer. You wouldn't think that you were weak for having cancer. It's the same thing. There are always people here to help you. There's a suicide prevention hotline, which I will have down in the description below.
Please do.
Also, my DMs are always open as well. So if you're ever feeling that low, you're not weak for getting medicine. You're strong for admitting you need help. So please always remember that.
1000%.
And it's funny that we talk about that, because I feel like podcasters, especially, I feel like this is a way for us to get through anxiety by talking to other people and working through some of our issues. And again, if you want the podcast, it's right down here in the description. Now, becoming a burlesque performer, what gave you the push to want to do that?
So I really like costumes. This room is also my work office, but it's also the only room in my house that has a truly functioning closet with doors. The other ones are fabric, because why not? And also, I am not a handy person. So if somebody watching this is, and they live around Michigan, hey, I need help. I'm not good at this game. But I love costuming. I love rhinestoning things. My last name truly is Jewell. It's got 2 L's though. And if I can rhinestone something, I'm going to rhinestone it. Glasses, for example, one of my favorite things. But with burlesque, it just always seemed really fun. And watching other people do it's I want to do that. So I am from Flint, woohoo. And I remember going to one of my first burlesque shows there and just watching the performers. And what I really liked about that particular troupe is that nobody truly looked the same. Some of the women were curvier, some weren't. There was a guy who was also just a big old sweetheart, and just watching them truly love who they are made me want to like myself, because it took a really long time for me to like who I am. And now I'm going to be 31 in a few days. So, hey, better late than never.
Happy early birthday to you.
Thank you.
And you're right. I think self-love is harder than other love. It's so easy to love somebody that you admire, but if you don't admire and respect yourself, it's very hard to find that self-love. And you just said something that couldn't, you hit the nail right on the head. Better late than never. Yes. Because if you are able to love yourself, I feel like that's when you are able to live your life to the absolute fullest. And I was just talking about this earlier with somebody. Today could be the day you die. You don't want to go out with, not doing all the things that you've wanted to do in your life. So thank you for setting a positive example for people out there. It was one of those things that attracted me to you when we started, talking. Was you're hilarious, goddamn hilarious, especially when you put the mustache and goatee filter on. It cracks me up every single fucking time. But it's just one of those things where positivity is. It sounds so funny to say it like this, but positivity is something that's always been a part of the horror world. It's always been political. It's always been about positivity in the end. And to meet other people that share that type of positive attitude that I have is such an inspiration to me as well, because it's not always easy to stay positive and uplifting. But when you surround yourself with positivity and uplifting people, it's a lot easier to love yourself because of the people that are around you. So thank you for being who you are. And if you guys want to see Lauren with a mustache and a goatee, follow her with these links down in the description below. So
you only kind of regret it.
No, I think it's absolutely awesome. And I'm definitely a big fan of the things that you're doing. And I can't wait to see what you have coming up in the future for us as well. But now, obviously, you grew up on a heavy dose of Tales from the Crypt. Are You Afraid of the Dark? But I want to go back to the past even farther, Lauren. And I want to talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Lauren, the first horror movie you watched was
Puppet Master 2.
And it's so funny because this is episode, I want to say 372. I could be wrong.
Oh, gosh.
But this is the first time I've talked about this movie on this podcast. So I'm very, very excited to talk about this film. Now, I can't say that Puppet Master in general, I got I bought the Blu-ray box set when Full Moon Productions did their streaming service. If you did the streaming service, you got the Puppet Master box set.
Really wanted that.
Oh my gosh. Like I watched them again as an adult and I'm like, I don't like these as much anymore. But of the batch, 2 will always be my favorite and 1 will always be the one that scared me the most for different reasons. So do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
Okay, so I was probably, I might have to do math. Math is not my forte, but I don't remember what year it came out, but I want to say anywhere between 6 years old and maybe like 9, somewhere along there.
And it's amazing because this movie, like the practical effects throughout this movie, they do hold up. That's something I can give Puppet Master a lot of credit for, is they do try to stay as practical as they can with their puppets. And I think that's amazing. Do you remember who you were with the first time you had seen it?
I was by myself in my brother's room. He had a TV in there in the basement, and I was with our dog, Sam. And it was probably Halloween. Sci-Fi was doing one of their movie marathons, and that's how I turned it watching it. Because like, oh, Sci-Fi Channel, what are you playing? Assuming it was going to be Tales from the Crypt at that time of the day. It was not.
That's so funny.
Mistakes were made.
Yeah, because this is a dark movie. Like this is a very dark movie. I mean, the movie starts with the muscular puppet pouring the potion into the grave to bring Talion back from the dead.
Let me go grab something. I meant to grab it earlier. I'm going to run away.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally fine.
It's important, I promise.
Well, what I love about this scene is in the first Puppet Master, you kind of get the hints dropped about him and who he is. But here at this moment, you're finally seeing that he's still buried on the premises here, and he's actually being brought back to life. And this comes in later when the film, when we're starting to get more into our climax, we start to learn more about who he is. So, so let's check it out.
Oh, okay. I had my headphones, so I couldn't hear you.
Right. I was talking the whole time just so I wasn't that dead air there. But
oh, fantastic. Okay, so yes, do you mean this handsome fellow?
Yes, that's so awesome.
Him. He keeps me company.
Yeah, that's so great. I was saying, like, in the first one, you get the hints of who he is, but then in this one, you actually see the potion being poured in to bring him back to life. So that's something I always remembered from this movie. But what that brings me to is, which scene was it that affected you the most from Puppet Master 2?
Okay, so I always call him Drill Sergeant because that makes sense to me. And I forget, I remember when I emailed you, I had his real name, but it's the puppet that looks like a colonel or war person, and he's got the drill on his head, and he still scares the shit out of me. But what had happened was when I turned it on, the scene that like is still in my head is those two characters just had sex. The lady goes to fuck off and goes to like back to her job because she was occupied. Fair enough. I guess I don't blame her. He was pretty cute from what I can remember. The dude falls asleep and he's sleeping on his back. And then you see Drill Sergeant crawl up the bed, sit on his chest. And as the dude is waking up, right in the skull.
Yeah. It's one of those scenes too where it's like, this reminds me of the first Puppet Master when you have the leech lady putting the leech in the guy's mouth. Like, this is that moment when you're like, oh fuck. Like, this is fucking gnarly, man.
This is how you go.
And it looks great. I love this scene. I rewatched this in anticipation for this episode, and it just looks so good. The scene looked really, really well done. So we know which scene it was that affected you the most, Mr. Drill Sergeant doing his job. But Lauren, what would you say your favorite scene from Puppet Master 2 is?
Ooh. My favorite scene of all the Puppet Master movies, and like, I'm sorry, this is technically a spoiler, but you've had a very long time to catch up on this series that for some reason, like, I love them, I do, but they just keep making them. Like, I think there's like 10 or 11 now. I stopped at 8.
They just released the newest one a couple of years ago, The Last Reich, I think it was.
Oh gosh.
Maybe there's one after that. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a spoiler, and there's a point of every Puppet Master movie, especially the second one, where all the puppets are just like, you know what? Fuck you. We don't like you anymore, and we're gonna protect these people instead, or we're just gonna get some good old fashioned revenge. Whatever floats their boat. That episode or movie series.
And it's funny because in this movie it makes no sense. You're like, why did they? I mean, like, one thing that the way that I attribute it is they don't give a shit. They don't want a leader. They just want chaos. That's all they want. So that's what I attribute it to. But you're right. One thing I do love in this movie, though, and no one will ever talk me off how great this is. There's a point where Talion, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Talion. Toulon, there we go. He puts them back in their case, and they're walking all sad.
They're like, they just got grounded.
Yeah, it's so funny. And this movie also, another thing that I wanted to talk about is, obviously, like I said, I went back and did a rewatch. There's a couple really, really good practical fire stunts done in this movie, from the one that has the fire that comes out of his mouth. Yeah.
Kid's dead. Sorry, kid.
They have a lot of really good practical fire stunts in this. So we just kind of touched on it a little bit, Lauren. Puppet Master is a franchise, and obviously an ever-expanding franchise at this point. We know Puppet Master 2 was your first, but what is your favorite movie in the Puppet Master franchise?
Ooh, I don't remember what one it is. And I promise I'm not biased just because there's a character named Lauren in it as well. I think it's 3 or 4. And it's the one where we also get the demons and the puppets are like brought back on accident by like this science geek guy who's also just very precious. And I think the Lauren character is also supposed to be like a psychic of some sort. And I just really like that because it's like, yes, look at that teamwork that's happening. And everybody that should die does die for the most part. And I feel like it also features more of the Jester, and he is my favorite of all the puppets. Like, I love Blade, but Jester is just so cute and wholesome in his little face.
I love when he's sad. As mean as that sounds, when he's got that little sad Jester face, like that's the best.
He is also another thing I had to go grab. It's not hung up yet. But like, wait, where's all my Puppet Master stuff? Why did I grab this ahead of time?
That's so awesome. Well, I mean, we know that Puppet Master 2 was your first horror movie, and obviously that movie means a lot to you. But real quick, I just want to throw a little bit of a curveball here at you for a second. My little buddy Ghostface is here, Lauren, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Lauren?
May.
What is your favorite? May. That's a deep cut right there.
It's my favorite, and it makes me cry every time.
Wow, good choice. That's a movie where, is she a protagonist? Is she an antagonist? What is May?
She's a badass. That's what she is, and she's a woman who has had tired of some shit, and she's going to take making friends into her own hands.
Yeah, so that's a movie that I haven't got to talk much about on this podcast either, but it's a movie that was very, very ahead of its time, I believe, when May came out. It was, maybe it didn't get the the exposure that it should have because it was marketed bad, and it was at a point in time where that wasn't what it should have been. But May is one of those movies that I feel like if you haven't seen May and you want a powerful female lead that takes matters into her own hands, May be good be for the movie for you. So one last question. I have two questions for you before we go, Lauren. One, Puppet Master is still an expanding franchise. We've talked about that a little bit, but in Hollywood, remakes, sequels is all the rage, and Puppet Master has always kind of been king of the indie B movies. Would you like to see a full-on theatrical Puppet Master experience done today?
Do I get to make some yes buts in this situation?
Because I feel like that's always something, like there's always an asterisk.
Yes,
do I want to see
all over?
Do I want to see a full-fledged Puppet Master remake done with CGI? Absolutely not.
Oh.
Would I like them to keep the same way they've done it with the practical effects? And, maybe even like they did with the Chucky TV series with a lot of green screen puppeteers working the stuff.
I would cool.
Absolutely love to see a full-fledged Puppet Master, big budget movie made, but you have to do it right. Don't give me an American Werewolf in Paris. Don't give me that type of CGI over top of what could have been a good movie. So I get where you're coming from. Would I watch it? Of course. But would it have to be done with the love and care that it needs to be done with? 100%, or else it's not going to work.
I could go for that. I think I wouldn't be too upset if they remade it, but just the first one. We'll talk about the second one. And I would also really want it to just be like actual puppeteers. Like I just watched Wednesday on Netflix the other day, and like even The Thing is a real person.
Yes.
Like if they can figure out how to do something like that, make it so. And also make sure that Jester's in it. That's all I request.
Well, I think that the big thing is right now, especially like in horror, being practical is very important. I was just talking about with the Chucky TV series and Megan, the new film coming out. I hear a lot of people complaining about how it looks. That's a girl. That's a little girl, Amy. And a lot of what she does, she's a dancer and she does a lot of that. And they're keeping it practical. And I think that's very important in horror, is to stay practical, because they don't want it to age like the blood in Freddy versus Jason. You want to make sure that it looks good 20 years from now. And how do you do that? Hire somebody that knows how to make practical effects, make them look good. Go back to puppeteers. Use green. I love the way a lot of the Chucky TV series looks. Maybe some of the episodes weren't my cup of tea, but they looked great when they didn't use CGI. When they stayed practical, it looked fucking awesome, and I loved it. So, Lauren, you know that you have my heart, and it's been an amazing time being able to hang out with you for a little bit.
Well,
but
thank you.
Before we go, I have one last question for you.
Oh gosh.
We're going to bounce back to Puppet Master 2. And what we're going to do here is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking this movie on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. What we're doing here is we're strictly judging this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Lauren, what would your ranking of Puppet Master 2 be?
I would say it's definitely a 5 because of that scene with Drill Sergeant. I can no longer sleep on my back. I can't do it. I am a straight up side sleeper. The only time I am sleeping on my back is if I have a cat that just won't get off of me. Only time. So solid 5 skulls. Like, this is how I die. It's your fault, Sharpie, Lego, or egg.
Awesome. Well, I mean, again, Lauren, I want to say thank you for taking the time out to come and hang out with me. I know that you have a very busy schedule, and the fact that we were able to finally squeeze this in and make it
So
work really
glad.
does mean a lot to me. So, guys, we're at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll, and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, there's some links down here in the description that need your loving. So make sure you're clicking these links, following Lauren on social media to stay up to date on everything she has coming up here in the future. Lauren, please don't go anywhere. I have a couple more questions for you.
Yes.
Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.